Hello and welcome to Easy Math channel. Now in this video we will discuss about compound interest. Let me again switch back to marker. Just give me a second. There we go. Okay. So unlike in the last video that I made about simple interest, in this video we will talk about compound interest. But before we jump into explaining what compound interest is, I wanted to focus around the main difference between a compound interest and and simple interest is. Now, a lot of student gets confused when it comes to, say, understanding difference between compound interest and simple interest. It's really simple and easy to understand. Now, compound interest is nothing but it's an interest that pays you on both principal and the interest. So an interest is calculated both on principal and on the interest earned, whereas the simple interest is just an interest on the principal. That's the main difference. And we will go through a couple examples to make this clear. So let's look at a simple example. Let's say we put $100 in bank A that pays a compound interest of 10% each year. And let's say we also deposit the same amount, $100, in bank B that pays 10% each year, but it's a simple interest. Now remember, the difference between bank A and bank B is the interest. Both of them pays 10%, but bank A pays compound interest and bank B pays simple interest. And the initial balance, or the initial amount that we're depositing in bank A and bank B, is $100. Okay, so let's see how how simple interest and compound interest will work in this example. So starting with the initial balance, we know that we deposited $100 and $100 in both the banks. Now, if we calculate interest earned, let's say in the first year, all we have to do is multiply the initial balance with 10%. We get $10 in bank A and we get $10 in bank B. So that's the interest earned. The total balance that we'll have in year one would be our initial amount plus the interest earned in that year. So which will be $100 plus $10, which is $110 in bank A. And in bank B, it's $100 plus $10 earned as an interest, which is $110. Now up to here, everything looks the same. So compound interest and simple interest works the same way. The difference comes from year two. So in year two, the interest earned would be $110, which was the balance in year one, and times 10%, which is $11. However, in bank B case, which is simple interest, we still calculate the interest earned on the same amount, which is $100. So we get interest as $10. Now here is the difference. If you look at the amount that we are multiplying to calculate interest earned, it's different. In bank A, which is giving us compound interest, we will use $110, which is the amount that we got in year one. Hence, the interest earned for year two is $11. Whereas in case of bank B, which was giving a simple interest, we multiplied 10%, which is the interest, which is the simple interest, on the same initial amount, which is $100. So after end of year two, for bank one, we'll have $110, which is year one balance plus $11, which is the interest earned in year 2. That gives us $121. And for bank B, it would be $110, which is the ending balance in year 1, plus $10, which is the interest earned in year 2. So that gives us balance of $120. Again, in year 3, for bank A, we will use $121, which is the amount that we have so far until year 2, and then multiply that by 10%. We get $12.10. Whereas for bank B, we will use, it's still $100. Sorry, that was a typo. So it's still $100 times 10%, which is $10. So if we want to calculate our end balance in year 3, which is also called as final balance, because we are only solving this problem for, say, up to like 3 years. So for ending balance in year 3, this would be $121, which is the amount that we have at the end of year 2, plus the interest that we earned in year 3, which is $12.10. So we get $133.10. And for bank B, it would be $120, which is the amount that we have in year 2, plus the interest that we earned in year 3, which is $10. So which is $130. Now you can clearly see how compound interest and simple interest work, and the difference that you see in the amount, $133.10 and $130, that is due to, I am sorry, let me erase that. So that is due to compound interest. So the difference of $3.10 that we are seeing in between bank A and bank B is because of the compound interest. So again, this will make more sense if you go back to our definition again. So compound interest pays interest on both principal and the interest, whereas simple interest pays interest only on the principal, which was $100 in both the cases. But in simple interest, interest is always calculated on $100, whereas in compound interest, interest is calculated on both principal plus the interest. So P is principal, and interest is nothing but I. Great. So we don't have to go over each and every step for any problem. We have a simple formula that can help us to calculate what would be, a final balance or an ending balance for any number of years. So let's say if you want to calculate balance after n years, we can use this formula, which is starting balance times 1 plus interest rate in decimal. So interest rate in decimal, for example, if interest rate is 10%, in decimal would be 0.10. And this term raised to the nth power. So it's raised to whatever number of years we have. So if we go back to this same example, and if we want to try to solve the same example using this formula, all we have to do is follow these 3 easy steps. First is we have to convert interest rate to decimal. We know our interest rate was 10%, so in decimal would be 0.10. And using formula, we just have to substitute all the values. So starting balance, if you remember, is $100. So 100 times bracket 1 plus interest rate is 0.10 in decimal, and this raised to nth power. Now since we in the example above we calculated it only for 3 years, n will be 3 here, and if we solve this we get $133.10, which is same as this. So the balance of bank A after 3 years is $133.10. Great. So this is how we, you know, calculate compound interest using this simple formula. And I hope this example made it easy enough to see the difference between compound interest, that was bank A, and simple interest, which was bank B. Let's solve a couple more examples to get ourselves familiarized with compound interest. Great. So let's say we have to calculate the interest rate over a 5-year period when you deposit $2,000 and earned a compound interest of 8% per year. Now let's focus on what we have to calculate. We have to calculate the interest. So the information we have is our starting balance is $2,000. Our compound interest rate is 8%, and it's been for 5 years. So we have to calculate interest. Now let's say, going back to this formula, which is starting balance times 1 plus interest rate to the nth power, this will give us the, this will help us calculate what the final balance is. So going back to the same example, the final balance was $133.10, which was same as this. We'll use the same formula and calculate what our final balance is first, and then we'll calculate the interest. So step 1 is nothing but convert 8% to decimal. Second step is to substitute all the values into the formulas, which is starting balance, in this case 2000, times 1 plus interest rate in decimal, power of nth, which is nth power, in this case would be 5. And if we solve this, we get $2,938.65. Great. Now remember, this is the final balance after 5 years and a compound interest of 8%. Now remember, the formula or the question is to calculate the interest, not the final balance. So the interest would be nothing but our final balance, which is 2,938.65 minus the starting balance, which is 2,000. So we get 938.65. This is the interest earned over a 5-year period with a deposit of $2,000 and compound interest of 8% per year. So interest, if you see here, is nothing but your final balance minus the starting balance. Simple. That's it. So this is the interest, which is, in this case, would be 2,938.65 minus starting balance, which is $2,000. We get $938.65. Great. Let's move on to another example. Now, in this case, the question is, how much interest would you earn if you put $500 in a bank for 20 years and received a compound interest of 4%? Great. So this is again similar to the prior question. We still have to find out how much interest will we earn given this question. So let's write down what we know from this question. So our starting balance is $500. The compound interest is 4% and it's for 20 years. Great. So the step one is to convert 4% to decimal. Second is to substitute values in our formula, which is starting balance times 1 plus interest rate in decimal to the nth power. So in this case, n is 20 and this is 500. And if we solve this, we get 1095.56. So this is nothing but our final balance. In third step, we'll calculate the interest, the actual interest earned, which is nothing but final balance minus starting balance. So from step 2, we know our final balance is $1,000.95. $1,095.56 minus our starting balance, which is $500. So our interest earned is nothing but 595.56. So this is the interest earned if we put starting balance of $500 in a bank for 20 years with a compound interest of 4%. I hope this was useful. So in the next example, which I think is a really great example to understand compound interest and simple interest in the same question. So in this example, we have to see which method is better. So is it better to receive a compound interest for 7 years at 12% on the balance of $500, or to receive the same rate of simple interest for 9 years? So let's say on this side I will calculate compound, and on this side I will calculate simple. Now we know that the starting balance is $500 in both both the type of interest, compound interest or simple interest. We know that the rate is 12% on both the side, and we know that for compound it's for 7 years, whereas for simple is for 9 years. Great. So again, to calculate, so this method asks us, is it better to receive compound interest? So we'll calculate final balance in both the case. So final balance, in order to calculate final balance, the first step is convert 12% to decimal, which is 0.12. And if you want any help to convert percentage to decimal, I have a video for that. It's called Percentages in Decimal. I would recommend you to go back to that video and refer if you have not. It's nothing but 12%, any percent would be 12 by 100, which is 0.12. Great. Second step would be to substitute all the values into our compound formula, compound interest formula, so which is 500 times 1 plus interest rate in decimal to the nth power. And so in this case, it's 7. And if we solve this, we get $1,105.54. Now remember, from my previous video on simple interest, the way we were calculating interest was nothing but principal times rate of interest. So in this case, principal is nothing but 500 and rate is 12%, which is 500 and 12%. Let me move down. and this will give us interest of $60. But remember, this is for 1 year, and we want for 9 years. So for 9 years, this would be 60 times 9, which is 540 interest earned. Now, since we want to find out the final balance will be nothing but our initial balance, because this in simple interest, final balance would be nothing but our initial balance or starting balance, which is $500, plus interest earned, which is I. So $500 plus 540. Remember, this is just interest earned. I is just interest earned. It's not final balance. So for simple interest, final balance would be interest earned plus the starting balance. And you can see that we have $1,040. Oops, sorry. We have $1,040. So from this, you can see that even if the interest rate is the same in both compound and simple interest with the same starting balance, we make more for 7 years versus 9 years in simple interest. So to answer the question, is it better to receive compound interest for 7 years at 12% on balance of $500? Yes, it is 100% better to invest for 7 years at 12% with a compound interest than a simple interest. I hope this was useful, and I hope this last example gave you more idea about the difference between compound and simple interest, and how compound and simple interest are different from each other. I hope this video was useful, and I hope I was able to help you understand the concept of compound interest. And if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, Easy Math, and please leave your comments below, and I will see you next week. Thank you.